What if the next villain Spider-Man faces is not a mastermind, but a predator? In Spider-Man Brand New Day, a familiar criminal from the MCU could finally return, this time transformed into the deadly Scorpion. With a weaponized mechanical tail and a personal grudge against Spider-Man, Matt Gargan might become the most dangerous street-level threat Peter Parker has ever faced. So today, we are breaking down who Scorpion really is, how he could rise in Brand New Day, and why this villain might completely change the kind of fight Spider-Man is about to step into. To understand how dangerous Scorpion can truly be, we need to go back to where it all began. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 20, where the Shadows first gave birth to one of Spider-Man's most formidable foes. J. Jonah Jameson, driven by his obsessive hatred of Spider-Man, decides to create a superpowered enemy capable of defeating him. After learning about a scientist who can artificially induce mutations, Jameson funds an experiment to turn a human into Spider-Man's natural predator, modeled after a scorpion. He hires private investigator Matt Gargan, originally tasked with discovering how Peter Parker gets exclusive Spider-Man photos. When that plan fails, Jameson offers Gargan $10,000 to undergo a dangerous scientific procedure. Gargan agrees without hesitation. Dr. Farley Stillwell administers an experimental serum that mutates the body of Gargan, granting him superhuman strength greater than Spider-Man's. He is then outfitted with a Scorpion-themed suit, complete with a powerful mechanical tail capable of smashing stone and delivering devastating blows. Thus, the Scorpion is born. At first, the plan seems successful. The Scorpion attacks Spider-Man and brutally defeats him in their first encounter. However, the transformation has severe psychological consequences. The mind of Gargan begins to deteriorate, amplifying aggression and instability. Instead of being a controlled weapon against Spider-Man, he becomes a violent criminal. When Dr. Stillwell attempts to administer an antidote, Gargan refuses, embracing his new identity and craving power. The scientist falls trying to undo his mistake, and the Scorpion spirals fully into villainy. In the end, Spider-Man returns for a second battle. This time, he relies on agility and strategy rather than brute force, ultimately defeating the Scorpion and saving Jameson, the very man responsible for creating him. Could we witness the terrifying evolution of Scorpion in Spider-Man Brand New Day, his thirst for vengeance growing ever stronger, leading directly into the explosive events of The Amazing Spider-Man issue 29, where the Scorpion has broken out of prison? Pretending to lose his mind, he convinced the guards to return his suit, which he repaired and used to escape, and now he is vowing vengeance, not just on Spider-Man, but especially on J. Jonah Jameson. At the same time, the Daily Bugle is buzzing with missing scientific equipment and mysterious break-ins. Peter Parker quickly learns that the Scorpion is on the loose and swings into action, trying to track him, but unknowingly tips off the Scorpion to Jonah's unguarded position. Jonah, terrified but cunning, devises a plan to manipulate Spider-Man into saving him. But the Scorpion strikes first, attacking Jonah at the Bugle. The fight spills through the office, and Spider-Man has to spring into action to protect his boss and the innocent bystanders. The battle intensifies on the rooftops, where Spider-Man uses his webs to trap the Scorpion, but the villain's coil tail gives him an edge, sending both of them tumbling into the water. Using his increased lung capacity and quick thinking, Spider-Man eventually subdues the Scorpion and leaves him for the authorities. The Scorpion is not just a villain, he is a reckoning forged from Jonah's hatred. He is proof that in Spider-Man's world every choice creates a monster, and monsters always find their way back. That is why this story matters heading into Brand New Day. Scorpion hits close to home. He targets Peter's job, his relationships, and the fragile balance of his double life. If Brand New Day is about rebuilding Spider-Man in a harsher world, then the Scorpion is the kind of threat that makes that world feel dangerous, personal, and impossible to separate from Peter Parker himself. And he does not just stay the same, Scorpion evolves. In The Amazing Spider-Man issue 318, he returns with a weaponized new tail, funded by Justin Hammer, and the upgrades completely change the threat level. These are not just cosmetic improvements. His armor is stronger, his tail is more lethal, and the redesigned suit directly counters Spider-Man's abilities. Most importantly, the new eye protection prevents Spider-Man's webbing from sticking, removing one of Peter's most reliable tactics. That small but critical adjustment shifts the entire dynamic of their fight, forcing Spider-Man to adapt against a physically superior and better equipped opponent. This also shows Scorpion operating with purpose. He kidnaps a United States general as part of a larger mission, proving he is not just lashing out blindly. he is taking contracts, executing plans, and demonstrating that he can function as a professional enforcer. That elevates him from a typical rogue to someone who can destabilize powerful institutions and create national-level stakes. What makes the conflict even stronger is Gargan's hatred for J. Jonah Jameson, the man who originally funded the experiment that transformed him. Scorpion ultimately demands Jameson in exchange for the kidnapped general. That personal revenge angle brings the threat closer to Peter's world. Spider-Man is not just stopping a random crime, he is caught in the fallout of a decision Jameson made years earlier. If Brand New Day uses these elements, Scorpion could feel grounded yet extremely dangerous. An upgraded Gargan who can neutralize Spider-Man's webbing, overpower him physically, and attack people connected to Peter would force Spider-Man into a fight that is both tactical and personal. In Spider-Man Brand New Day, the potential arrival of Scorpion marks a shift from the types of villains Spider-Man has faced in Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. Earlier antagonists like Vulture and Mysterio relied heavily on deception, technology, and manipulation. They fought Peter as masterminds working behind the scenes, Vulture as a criminal opportunist, and Mysterio as a showman crafting illusions. Even in No Way Home, where Peter faced multiversal threats like Green Goblin alongside the chaos surrounding Doctor Strange, the conflict still revolved around larger world-bending stakes. Scorpion, however, is fundamentally different as he is built to be a physical predator, enhanced with a powerful suit and a deadly mechanical tail. He is less about trickery and more about raw aggression, bringing Spider-Man into a brutal street-level conflict that feels far more personal and dangerous. What makes Scorpion stand out even more is his connection to Peter Parker's world. In the MCU, Matt Gargan was already introduced as a criminal with a grudge against Spider-Man, making his transformation into Scorpion feel like a natural escalation rather than a brand new threat. Unlike past villains who were driven by misguided ideals or revenge against larger systems, Gargan's motivation is simpler and darker. He just wants Spider-Man dead. That personal hatred makes him unpredictable and relentless, instead of elaborate schemes or global stakes. Scorpion represents a more grounded danger, someone who will hunt Peter down relentlessly, forcing Spider-Man to rely not just on his intelligence, but on his endurance and survival instincts. Another villain who is considered very likely to appear alongside Scorpion is Tombstone. Unlike Scorpion, who represents brute force and relentless physical danger, Tombstone operates as a powerful crime boss within New York's underworld and could serve as the figure pulling strings behind much of the city's criminal activity. His inclusion would help ground the story even further in street-level conflict, placing Spider-Man against not just one dangerous enemy, but an entire criminal network. Tombstone brings a very different kind of threat. While he is physically imposing and capable of fighting Spider-Man directly, his real strength lies in influence and power. As a crime lord, he could control gangs, weapons, and illegal operations throughout the city, forcing Peter to deal with a much larger web of crime rather than a single opponent. This dynamic creates a layered conflict where Spider-Man must face Scorpion's raw aggression while also trying to dismantle Tombstone's criminal empire. There is also speculation that Boomerang could appear as a secondary villain in the film. Boomerang, also known as Fred Myers, is often portrayed as a skilled mercenary and thief who relies on a variety of specialized trick boomerangs as weapons. Compared to Scorpion or Tombstone, he is generally not portrayed as a top-tier threat, but his unpredictability and arsenal of gadgets can still make him a dangerous opponent. His personality often leans toward arrogance and opportunism, meaning he might work for larger villains like Tombstone, or simply take advantage of the chaos surrounding Scorpion's attacks. While he may not be powerful enough to defeat Spider-Man on his own, Boomerang's speed, agility, and weaponized boomerangs could create fast-paced confrontations that challenge Peter in creative ways. Together, villains like Scorpion, Tombstone, and Boomerang would create a mix of brute force, organized crime, and unpredictable street-level chaos, shaping Brand New Day into a much more grounded and dangerous chapter of Spider-Man's story. Thank you for watching. With villains like Scorpion potentially leading the charge, Tombstone controlling the criminal underworld, and Boomerang adding that unpredictable wildcard energy, Spider-Man Brand New Day could deliver one of the most grounded and intense Spider-Man stories we have seen in the MCU so far. A shift towards street-level threats would put Peter Parker in a very different kind of fight, one where survival, resilience, and quick thinking matter just as much as raw strength. But what do you think? Are Scorpion, Tombstone, and Boomerang the right villains for this new chapter of Spider-Man's story? Or is there another character you think should appear in Brand New Day? Let me know your theories and predictions down in the comments below. I would love to hear them. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more Spider-Man and Marvel content, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next upload. See you in the next one.